Episode 1 of SlyVinyl Radio. This is Eric Hughes of SlyVinyl Records, broadcasting from Sly HQ. Today we have an interview with Mirza Ramic, the creative mastermind behind Arms and Sleepers, and the focus of SlyVinyl's next exclusive release, A Man, A Plan, A CANAL, PANAMA. This episode will be giving you all the details about multiple vinyl variants, wax mage editions, the what, the where, and the when for this exclusive release dropping this Friday, April 16th on SlyVinyl.com. We hope you enjoy the interview and this first track off the release. Mirza, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me.
I understand that you are currently in Berlin.
I am. I'm in Berlin, Germany. I've been here since last summer. Came here in the midst of the pandemic and am staying put for now.
Tell us a little bit about your story, because from what I understand, you merely went off on tour and then you ended up kind of quarantined and locked down in a couple spots.
Yeah, it was a weird time, and I was basically had just released the new Arms and Sleepers album in January 2020. So I was on tour in the US and then immediately went on a tour in Europe, in Ukraine and Russia. And as I was doing the shows in Russia, the pandemic started. This is the middle of March. And the last few shows got canceled. The borders started closing. So I just got on one of the last flights into the EU, went to Riga, Latvia, where I had lived for a bit in the past and stayed there for 4 months during all the lockdowns, and then came to Berlin from there. So yeah, it was a bit of a weird journey here.
At least you kind of got to land a little home away from home there, though, huh?
Yeah, I guess so.
So you've toured the U.S., you've toured Europe, you've toured Asia. You've done the Middle East a little bit as well, right?
I have not been to the Middle East. I was actually supposed to play a show in Tunisia, in Northern Africa, and the Middle East. Actually, is Tunisia considered the Middle East? I'm not even sure. Northern Africa for sure. I was supposed to do a show there in September last year, but that of course got canceled. But yeah, I played shows in Turkey. I've been to China and that part of Asia, and then Eastern Europe, Central America, North America.
No South America, Australia?
No Australia, no South America, not yet, unfortunately.
We got to get Antarctica in there too and really round it out. Hit all seven continents.
That'd be incredible.
Well, it's not like you have any shortage of material or creativity. You are involved in so much, and especially these past 2 years, Of course, you have Arms and Sleepers, which has been going strong since 2006. And I mean, honestly, I can't even tell you how much material you guys have released in that amount of time. Albums upon albums, EPs up the wazoo, singles here, singles there.
Yep.
Lots of material. And so if people listening right now are only familiar with the EP that we're releasing this Friday, please dig into the catalog, because there's so much to be loved.
Yeah, it's not all, it's not all amazing, but some of it is good.
I say it is.
Okay.
Check it out,
Thanks,
guys.
I appreciate it.
You've got solo projects. You've got Saigon Would Be Seoul, which is a solo project that you kicked off in 2019.
Yes, correct.
Then you and Victor Ferreira of Sun Glitters have a God versus Balkan Man, which you did in 2020.
Yep.
Now you've got Era C, which is care backwards, right? Is that the?
It is. You got it. You got it. Well, actually, we had a different name, which was Era CT Not 1, which was I Don't Care backwards, but it was just way too complicated for people to pronounce or remember, so we actually just shortened it to, ironically enough, Era C, which is Care backwards. So, yep.
Tell us a little bit about that. That's brand new. It hasn't even debuted yet, correct?
Well, we've announced the debut album and released a couple of singles, but we're sort of in the middle of that album campaign right now. The debut album releases on May 28th, so we're doing vinyl digital pre-orders at the moment and the whole campaign thing. But yeah, that's just me and a singer vocalist who's also sung on a couple of Arms and Sleeper songs in the past. Well, last year on 2 songs. So her and I are doing this Era C project together.
That's great. And that's on Future Archive Recordings?
Future Archive Recordings, one of my labels that I run. So yes.
Let's speak about that. You have several labels that you run. Interpret Noble, Future Archive. I mean, you've got your self-released stuff, which you could consider, I guess, your own personal label. But am I missing any?
Feels like it. No, I mean, the only other thing is this online magazine, DXFXWXU Collective. Of course, I love complicated names, but that's also a little bit like an umbrella for releasing music as well, not just the sort of artsy online magazine that we're focused on. So there is also that platform. So it's 3 things.
We'll include in the release notes on this podcast a link to all of these projects that we've mentioned.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
Early 2020, you were featured in and did the music for an award-winning short film titled To Tell a Ghost. Tell us about that. Yeah,
this was a short documentary film that I made with a couple of film directors from Germany, and it's just a short 11-minute film about sort of where I come from, which is Bosnia and Herzegovina, and what music has meant to me, starting with my mom, who's a piano teacher, and of course now doing all these projects, and then going back to my hometown, which was destroyed in the war in the 90s, and talking about how music has kind of helped me self-heal and cope with all these difficult memories over the years.
It's really, and we'll link this too down below, guys. So check it out. It's really a haunting and beautiful little story, and
thank you.
The music that you've added to it just really adds to the atmosphere of everything. And
yeah, thank you. It was the music was really the starting point. The music in the film is from the debut album for my solo project, Saigon Would Be Seoul. And I wanted to make some music videos in my hometown because this album and these songs are about sort of where I come from and where I was born. So it started with the idea of trying to do some music videos, but then developed into creating an actual short documentary film.
Well, it really is fantastic, and you guys should check it out.
Let's take a moment and check out the next track titled The Pedestrian. right, that was the second song off of the EP, A Man, A Plan, A Canal, Panama, and that is the release I'd like to talk about right now.
Yeah.
This is from August of 2011. This was, until now, download only. As far as I know, there is no cassette, CD, mini disc, nothing for this.
Nothing. No physical media.
And that's so weird for you guys, because you guys release physical media. Like I've got shelves of Arms and Sleepers stuff, and I know I don't even have everything.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having shelves of Arms and Sleepers stuff. I appreciate your support. But yeah, it's been a lot of physical releases over the years. Yeah, I don't know why this one never got released on vinyl or anything. Even we used to do a lot of kind of limited run, handmade CDs back in the day. So not even that. I think, and we'll talk a bit more about this, but I think it was the last of many releases that year, and I think we were just kind of done. So, and then it just sort of got shelved.
That's fair.
Yep.
We'll take it. This is the 10th anniversary reissue on vinyl, on physical for the very first time. But take us back 10 years to when this was released. What was a day in the life of Mirza? What's the day-to-day like for Arms and Sleepers?
Do I have to do this? 10 years ago, 2011, this 5-track EP, of course 6-track now on this vinyl edition with a bonus track, but originally 5-track EP. Yeah, it was released in August 2011, and it was released after this like really crazy 4-month period of touring as Arms and Sleepers to promote all this new music. And this tour was just insane, and started in the US, went to Europe for a month, then went to Asia, and then came back to Canada. And I just remember coming home in July of that year of 2011 and just being so like deeply exhausted, like the kind of exhaustion that I really had never felt before, just from being on the road. So yeah, it felt like I needed a real break from Arms and Sleepers and just the band thing that I was doing. Well, I'm still doing it, but that I was really heavily doing at that time. And so yeah, this EP was sort of like, okay, let's put out this one final thing and then let's take a break. And that break really led to us going on hiatus for a bit. And this was really our last release before we kind of came back and resurfaced and released Swim Team in 2014. So this was really the last release before a 3-year kind of hiatus as Arms and Sleepers.
Well, coming back with Swim Team is a triumphant return, I have to say.
Yeah. No, thanks. Well, I am very happy with that album. And yeah, I think that album for us, Swim Team, was really kind of refreshing and something we needed to sort of start appreciating again what we were doing, just not in a kind of a pretentious way, but just for ourselves. And so, yeah, but there's this weird gap between Panama and Swim Team. And so it has very different kind of connotations. This Panama EP is like a very strange, tiring time that I remember 10 years ago. But it's all good now.
Was it not recorded, but did you write it while on tour?
No, it was mostly written before this crazy tour kicked off. Basically, we released 4 things that year in 2011, 2 albums and 2 EPs, this being one of the 2 EPs. And most of it was written actually in the second half of 2010, so the year before.
Okay.
But it was kind of finalized and mixed and all that after this tour.
Well, very much a bookend then for you, huh?
Yeah, really a bookend. That's a good way to say it.
And so, like you mentioned, this is a 5-track EP, but for the vinyl release, we did go back into the archives and we found a bonus track from that contemporary era. When you went back to listen, did you actually listen to the Panama EP to decide which bonus track to provide? And what's it like to listen back to a track that's a decade old?
Yeah, I did listen to this EP as soon as we started talking about this vinyl edition. and I listened to it a few times, and then when we were talking about and discussing the bonus track, I re-listened to it again, and then listened to the few unfinished things that I had, and a few finished things but which were not released. So a couple of tracks, but this song was the one that I really have no idea why we didn't include originally on the EP. I think there wasn't any kind of like a higher purpose of like those 5 songs work together in a perfect way and we should leave it. It wasn't anything like that. I think something just happened where maybe we didn't finish the mixing, or we're just too tired to like revisit the song. But yeah, this bonus track that's released on vinyl now was definitely going to be on the EP, but for some reason we didn't include it. So it's very much from that era, and obviously sounds very similar to the other tracks. But yeah, listening back to these songs it's kind of weird. Our sound as Arms and Sleepers has changed so much, but in some ways we've come back to some of those older sounds as well, especially with last year's releases. But yeah, it's I don't know, it's kind of refreshing to hear it. I really, this EP specifically, I hadn't heard in a really long time. So it was actually kind of nice to listen from start to finish a few times.
Definitely. Well, this EP holds a special place in my heart because it was my very first introduction to Arms and Sleepers. In college, my roommate Ed and I would share music finds back and forth all the time. We're both just constantly listening, constantly just kind of digging, checking out similar artists to things that we like. And so we're sharing things, and I distinctly remember him showing me this EP for a couple reasons. One, a man, a plan, a canal, Panama is a palindrome.
Love it.
Which means it reads front to back to front, and I love that kind of stuff. So I was like, okay, I love that. The artwork drew me right in, but of course he had it playing as he was like, get in here and check this out. So it was just, it's a moment where I can think back and I know exactly where I was standing when I first heard Panama.
Oh, crazy. What year was this?
This had to have been, it probably was the year it came out. It probably had to have been around 2011. So It was probably brand new.
Wow. Okay. Wow. So yeah, that's, but that's kind of a weird EP to get introduced to Arms and Sleepers, I think. Because I think most people would have heard like some of our earlier albums like Black Praise 86 or Matador, sort of slower, more ambient, more melancholy stuff. And then this EP is like very beat heavy, or almost like a, I don't know, like one of those casino movies like Ocean's 11 or something.
Well, that it definitely attracted me into the whole realm of Arms and Sleepers, and then I listened front to back on what you guys had to offer at that point. So the album is titled Panama, even just shorthand. But a little interesting fact about it is the album art, not Panama. Tell us
not
that.
Just straight up. Not Panama. Yeah, no, it's not. Although it could kind of look, I mean, with the colors, it could kind of look like it's from Central America, from Panama. But yeah, this was the artwork was really just some random pictures that I took while I was on tour in China that year. So this is that 4-month-long tour that was really exhausting and crazy. And so part of that tour was in China, I think 5 or 6 shows. And one of the shows was in Wuhan, China. So the place where the outbreak, the coronavirus outbreak started. So
Topical.
I've played in Wuhan twice. And this was the first time in 2011. But I had a day off, and the tour manager took me on a little trip around the city. And I just took these pictures on my really old iPhone. And I just really liked the mood of them and decided to use that for the cover.
So yeah, it's kind of crazy that it's back in the news and here we are using photos from it.
Yeah, it's really bizarre. I mean, when we started talking about the vinyl edition, we've obviously talked about it for a while, but when it started actually happening with all the details and logistics of doing the artwork for the vinyl, it was just crazy. It didn't really hit me until I started thinking about, like, oh, that was Wuhan, China. And this is where, this is sort of at the center of all the news, obviously last year in March. And now we're putting this out, and we're putting it out really kind of a year, almost exactly a year after the craziness began. So it has a lot of kind of symbolic meaning there. But yeah, like you said, first time you heard the CP, you could picture yourself where you were standing, what you were doing. And it's the same with me with these pictures and with this cover. I just remember that moment so well in the car. I took these pictures from a moving car, and I just remember it so well. Yeah, it's just crazy to think that that was 10 years ago, and Wuhan means something completely different now, in the world. So right. Really bizarre.
Well, I don't know if there's a good segue for this, but let's listen to another track.
Yes. Let's stop talking about Wuhan and listen to this.
Here's another track off of the EP, guys. All right, and we're back. Let's talk a little bit about the actual vinyl record. Like we said, this has been this release is on vinyl or any physical format for the very first time, and this is one that's actually been on my mind for quite some time. I think I actually approached you a couple of years ago with an idea for the release. But it took me a little bit to actually get it into the pipeline, and I think ultimately it benefited from that, because what I had initially imagined it as versus what we have in hand right now that I'm looking at, there's no comparison. I think we knocked it out of the park with this one, and I think the pressing plant, Gotta Groove Records out of Cleveland, did a fantastic job, and their Wax Mage crew, we'll have to do a shout out to them. So this release is our 16th of exclusive SlyVinyl Records release. What's fantastic about this is it's the full 5-song EP on side A, so you can listen front to back as it was intended to. No interruptions, don't need to flip it over to side B. And then on side B, we've got that bonus track for you and a hologram etched by none other than the Richard Houghton, who I know you've worked with a couple times on a couple of your other records as well. He's the guy to go to
Yep.
a holographic release.
Yeah, he's done a couple of lathe cuts and some other stuff for Arms and Sleepers. And Richard's stuff is always really fantastic.
And it sounds great. Richard did the mastering and cut it for us as well. So this is if you guys like Richard releases, this is got his fingerprints all over it. It sounds fantastic. There's 3 color variants. We mentioned the Wax Mage. There's 25 copies. I know that sounds like nothing, guys, but that is all they'll make. These are handmade. They really look stellar, and they take the time to make each copy unique. What's great about this edition is that we've got, if you are lucky enough to snag one of the Wax Mage copies, we have some bonus items for you. When you originally downloaded this album off of the Arms and Sleepers Bandcamp page, it came with 4 alternate album covers. And those are those pictures of Wuhan that we were just talking about. What we've done is we kind of turned them into a quasi, they're like a reproduction Polaroid. And we've got them all printed out, all nice and neat, and we've got them all packaged up for you in some really great wax sealed envelopes. Every Wax Mage copy is going to get one, and you're going to feel like you missed out if you don't get one. So you guys are going to want to be there.
It looks amazing.
In addition to that, we've got a black with a color stripe. We're calling it our color striped edition. There's 100 copies. It's another handmade variant. What's great about this one is the black color really makes the hologram on the back pop. Like, so if you want to see the best hologram, you might want to go for this black one. And then the Coke bottle swirl, 200 copies of that. It just looks so good with the album art. I'm very happy with how these turned out, and I think any copy that you manage to get your hands on looks stellar.
These are going to be on sale this Friday. Arms and Sleepers, A Man, A Plan, A Canal, Panama, 10th Anniversary Edition. There's a bonus track. It's got a hologram. Be there Friday, April 16th at 9 a.m. Pacific, exclusively on SlyVinyl.com. We've got time to play another track from the release, so here is track 4, Escape. Mirza, it was awesome to have you. Before we go, is there anything you want to plug or give a shout to?
Yeah, I mean, my online magazine that I run with Victor from Sunglitters, I think is cool. But yeah, we put a lot of work into it, and it's basically just a free online magazine, lots of artsy stuff. So if you go to DXFXWXU.com, you can check it all out there. I think you'll probably include a link with this episode. But yeah, that's always appreciated when people check out this online magazine, because we're just put so much effort into it, Victor and I. And I guess I'll just quickly mention that Arms and Sleepers put out 7 releases last year.
7.
So lots of new music. 7, yes, 7. I don't know if that was a smart or not a smart marketing move, but anyway, it's out there. So lots of music. Our Bandcamp page has all of that. And then the final thing I'll mention is my new project, Era C. The debut album is coming out end of May, as I mentioned earlier. So if anyone's interested in a vinyl copy of that, it's up for pre-orders.
Well, Mirza, thank you so much for your time and for the music. It is always a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you for doing this vinyl edition for the 10th anniversary. And yeah, thanks for chatting. It was great.